Shubho Shakal, good morning. We will conduct our session both in Bangla and English. We'll try to wrap up our dialogue within 40 minutes. This is the month March, our Independence Day and International Women's Day. Happy Women's Day. International Women's Day provides a useful opportunity to reinforce the fact that everyone has a role to play in forging a more gender-balanced world. This day or month, we are celebrating the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women. The day also we mark a call of action for accelerating gender parity. This year UN theme, Digital, Innovation and Technology for Gender Equality, and the global theme, Embrace Equality. Today, we are going to highlight our dialogue on locally led adaptation and role of women climate actors. We invited 4 guests for today's discussion. I am introducing our guest speakers. Lubna Yasmine, Joint Secretary, Climate Change Wing, Ministry of Women, Forest and Climate Change. She is a member of Bangladesh Civil Service cadre. More than 20 years she is serving for civil service. Our next speaker, Nayoka Martinez-Bäckström, First Secretary, Environment and Climate, Embassy of Sweden in Dhaka, Bangladesh. Nayoka is responsible for Sweden-Bangladesh bilateral development cooperation in environment and climate change. Now I am coming to Abdus Salam, Chief Executive, Unnayan Kendra, Gaibandha. He is leading the organization since its inception in 1985. Our next guest speaker, Shaheen Anam, Executive Director, Manusher Jonno Foundation. She is committed to upholding the rights of the most marginalized people. She is known as a human rights and women rights activist. Thank you so much for sharing your valuable time with us in this morning. I'm welcoming you all. Before going to start the dialogue, we will watch a 4-minute video on our project, Strengthening Public and Private Institutions to Combat Gender-Based Violence and Build Community Resilience to Address Climate Change Impact. So, inviting you all to watch the video.
জলবায়ু পরিবর্তনের প্রত্যক্ষ ও পরোক্ষ প্রভাবেও বিপন্ন হচ্ছে নারী। উপকূলে কৃষি জমি বেশিরভাগ সময় সামুদ্রিক নোনা জলে তলিয়ে থাকছে। ফলে ফসলি জমি হারাচ্ছে তার উর্বরতা। সাইক্লোনের সংখ্যা প্রতি বছর বৃদ্ধি পাচ্ছে। উত্তরাঞ্চলে অতিবৃষ্টি এবং আকস্মিক বন্যায় প্লাবিত হচ্ছে গোটা জনপদ। পার্বত্য অঞ্চলেও বাড়ছে পাহাড়ি ধসের সংখ্যা। ফলে প্রতি বছর ঘটছে প্রাণহানির ঘটনা এবং মানুষ হারাচ্ছে বসতবাড়ি। বলা যায় এর কারণ হল বৈশ্বিক উষ্ণতা বৃদ্ধি এবং জলবায়ু পরিবর্তনের প্রত্যক্ষ প্রভাব। প্রকল্পের অন্তর্গত প্রত্যেকটি দুর্যোগপ্রবণ এলাকায় হতদরিদ্র নারীদের নিয়ে একাধিক দল গঠন করা হয়। উদ্দেশ্য হল সদস্যদের জলবায়ু পরিবর্তনের প্রভাব, দুর্যোগ পূর্ব প্রস্তুতি এবং দুর্যোগ উত্তর সময়ে করণীয় বিষয়গুলো সম্পর্কে নারীদেরকে সচেতন করে তোলা।
প্রাকৃতিক দুর্যোগ হলে মহিলাদের বেশি সমস্যা, যেমন হচ্ছে আপনার গর্ভবতী মহিলারা যদি থাকে, ঝড় জলস্তর যেটা হয় সেটা তো আমাদের এখানে তো আপনার টিনের ঘর, যাদের কাঁচা বাড়ি, তা ওখানে তো মহিলাদের রাখা যায় না। তারপরে ছোট যারা বাচ্চা তাদেরও রাখা যায় না, পাশে আমাদের সাইকেল সেন্টারে নিয়ে যেতে হয়।
দলগুলোকে একই সাথে অভিযোজন কৌশল হিসেবে উন্নত পদ্ধতিতে দুর্যোগ সহনশীল সবজি চাষ, হাঁস মুরগি ও গবাদি প্রাণী পালনে উৎসাহিত করা হয়।
আমরা মনে করেন এই সমিতিটাও চালাইলাম, পাশাপাশি আমরা নিজেরা হাঁস পালি, মুরগি পালি, টাকা কিছু রোজগার করি। টাকা ওই জমা হয়েছে। 16,000 টাকা দিয়ে সড়ক বা বাছুর গরু কিনছিলাম। অনাল্লাদা আমার 16,000 টাকাতে 6টা গরু হয়েছে।
প্রকল্পের সহায়তায় সরকারি প্রাণী সম্পদ অফিসের সাথে সংযোগ করিয়ে দেওয়ার ফলে সকল প্রকার তথ্য ও ভ্যাকসিন সুবিধা এখন সদস্যরা বাড়িতেই পেয়ে থাকে।
আসলে আমরা যদি জিওএনজির সমন্বয়ে রেখে কাজ করি তাহলে কিন্তু হোলিস্টিক অ্যাপ্রোচ হয় এবং হচ্ছে যে আলটিমেট গোল যেটা এটা সাস্টেনেবল হবে এবং আমার এলাকায় সেটাই হচ্ছে আর কি।
গাইবান্ধার রূপালী বেগম দলের আইজিএ ফান্ড থেকে ঋণ নিয়ে একটি সেলাই মেশিন ক্রয় করে।
মেশিনটা দিয়ে ইনকাম আসতেছে, আমার সংসারটা ভালোভাবে চলতেছে। আগে আমার স্বামীর আশায় থাকতে হতো, যদি এখন আমার স্বামী নাও থাকে তাও আমি এই মেশিনটা দিয়ে চলতে পারি।
মংলা উপজেলার চিলা ইউনিয়নের নারী দলের সদস্যরা প্রকল্প থেকে প্রশিক্ষণ পেয়ে নিজেরাই দলীয়ভাবে সিআরভিএ তৈরি করে ইউনিয়ন ও উপজেলা দুর্যোগ ব্যবস্থাপনা কমিটির সামনে উপস্থাপন করতে সক্ষম হয়েছে। মংলা উপজেলার ঝর্ণা মণ্ডল প্রকল্পের সহায়তা ও প্রশিক্ষণ পেয়ে বাড়ির আঙিনায় পড়ে থাকা জমিতে সবজি চাষ শুরু করে।
প্রকল্প না আসলে এইভাবে আর অতটা আমি আগ্রহী হতাম না। এখন দেখি কি আসলে এইভাবে করে নিজেও উপকৃত হচ্ছি, পাশে দুজনে দিতে পারতেছি, বিক্রি করে 2 টাকা জমাচ্ছি।
কলাপাড়ার সাইরুন বেগমও ভার্টিক্যাল পদ্ধতিতে সবজি চাষ করে আর্থিক অবস্থার পরিবর্তন করতে পেরেছে।
টাওয়ার পদ্ধতির করছি এই কারণ এটুকুই আমার জায়গা কম, এই অল্প জায়গার ভিতরে আমাকে এটুকু করে খাইতে হয়।
আমাদের ইউনিয়ন পরিষদে আমাদের উপসহকারী কৃষি কর্মকর্তা যারা রয়েছেন তাদের ফোন নাম্বারগুলো দেওয়া আছে, তারা সেখানে যাচ্ছে, উপসহকারী কৃষি অফিসার তাদেরকে ফোন করছে, উপসহকারী কৃষি অফিসার তাদের সঙ্গে যোগাযোগ করে একবারে তার বাড়িতে তার খামারে চলে যাচ্ছে।
ম্যান্ডেলা চাকমা দলীয় ফান্ড থেকে ঋণ নিয়ে পড়ে থাকা পাহাড়ি জমিতে সবজি চাষ শুরু করে। এখন উৎপাদিত সবজি থেকে পরিবারের চাহিদা মেটে, একই সাথে বাজারে বিক্রি করে সে পরিবারের ব্যয়ভার বহন করে। বান্দরবানের দুর্গম পাহাড়ের মেনুলুং পাড়া, সেখানে 26টি ম্রো পরিবারের বসবাস। দূরের পাহাড়ি ঝিরি থেকে নারীরাই জল বয়ে আনার কষ্টকর কাজটি করত।
Ta ching dong wang tem hania na ang ingkua tui teng bom dwa yung khak mening na ning khe tlen temi khe ta ching dong wei de khe anh bom me ka tui đời chat dong cham teng spa ka diet cha lu pa ka đời ko mat nom nam hak yung atu wang chang ing piak no wang chang ani wang chang kam takla।
সাফল্যের মূল্যায়নে বলা যায় মাঠ পর্যায়ে জলবায়ু পরিবর্তনের প্রভাব মোকাবেলা করে মানুষ এখন অর্থনৈতিকভাবে স্বাবলম্বী।
Thank you all for watching the video. Actually, it focuses our last phase project impacts. And along with this, I want to say there is no doubt Bangladesh is one of the countries most vulnerable to the impact of climate change. In response to these challenges, there has been a growing emphasis on locally led adaptation, which involves engaging local communities in developing and implementing climate adaptation strategies that are tailored to their specific needs and circumstances, both in practical and strategic. At the same time, it is also true that women have a critical role to play in locally led adaptation in Bangladesh. So at this point, I'd like to come to Shaheen Anam, Executive Director of Manusher Jonno Foundation. You know, locally led adaptation recognizes the value of local knowledge and expertise to address climate risk and ensures that local actors on the front lines of climate change have equitable access to power and resources to build resilience. So here is our, I don't want to say questions, rather we want to hear from you. Would you please tell us MJF experience on women-centered locally led adaptation from principle to practice? Over to you, Shaina.
To answer Banasree's question that how does MJF address this, women's kind of experience, or what has been MJF's experience in putting actually women at the center of all ours. So MJF, right from the beginning, first of all, one of our core principle is respect for diversity and gender equality. So these are really two of our most important principles, and throughout our organization and our partner organization, we try to follow these two principles to make sure that women are given the true importance. Their vulnerabilities are first recognized and then addressed. In our projects, we have emphasized, most importantly, women's participation in all our programs, and not only token participation. Women will participate, discuss, dialogue equally. There will be equal number of men and women. There will be a section of marginalized people, women with disability, women with special needs, in all the local led decision making and the program that we design. Then we work with the local government, with the LGIs, the local institutions, and make sure that women voices are heard at the local level, that their voices are heard and their representation is equal there, so that they can get their voices heard. The other thing is that the vulnerable people are given priority, which I said before, that the participation is not token, it is a truly participatory and representative. The other thing we do is to build local capacities, that women have the capacity to raise their voice, to talk about their needs, to talk about their challenges. And the other is awareness raising, awareness about the adverse impacts of climate change, that they're aware what should they do, how they are going to address these issues. So to answer Banasree's question, that yes, at local level, we make sure that women's special needs are addressed in a way that they can have some control over their lives, over decision making. Banasree, does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you so much. Actually, you already set the tone of our today's dialogue. Thank you so much. And based on that, you are just talking about the awareness raising. So I am coming to the Salam Bhai. Salam Bhai, awareness raising is one of the most common initiatives for organizing community, where women are also powerful agent of change. Definitely, there is some unique knowledge, skills, and perspectives that can inform effectively adaptation strategies. So, may I raise these questions like that? What initiatives can be taken to increase awareness raising and introduce new technologies on climate change adaptation? Salam Bhai.
I'd like to say first, happy International Women's Day to all of those who are hearing. So what actually the awareness raising should be taken in the future especially for the women, considering for women. Actually, I am working in the grassroots level. I'm actually the grassroots practitioner of development. So what we are seeing in the north, especially I'm working in the north and in the river basin areas and the chores. So there are a lot of challenges we are facing, especially for this climate change adaptation issues. Every day, every year, what we are facing here in the north, in the river basin areas, the flood is increasing, the erosion of the river erosion is intensity is increasing, the people vulnerability is increasing more and more. So there is some challenges actually. Before come to your question, I would like to say some challenges, because if we don't know the challenges we are facing, or the women are facing, or the grassroots people are facing, then we cannot take the measures for them. The challenges is that, previously we worked with the support of MJF in the chore areas, what we have seen. So when we support people for raising awareness, especially the women and girls, and then some adaptation, local adaptation measures. But what is happening? The women, what is the resources? Normally, the grassroots women, they have resources only their domestic, some animals, small animals, and some vegetable garden, some trees. That is actually the women their resources. But when the disasters is increasing because of the climate change, so women are losing everything. But nobody is replacing these resources to the women. That's why women are getting more and more vulnerable. They're losing the resources, all the resources. And this is the main challenge. And other challenge is that, when they are eroding by the river, or when the flood is increasing, they're displacing the other place. So what is happening if it is the other union or other sub-districts, so that time they are not recognized as their, I cannot say citizen, but like this, the other chairman or other union parishad, they cannot recognize these people. They are their people. That's why they cannot get the government support, even the other VGD card or any other facilities from the government. That actually the real challenge in the grassroots level. So what can be taken in future? That I would like to say here.
Can we come on future and later on?
Okay.
Thank you, Salam, so much. You rightly pointed here, and definitely the challenge is, without knowing the challenges, how we can proceed. At the same time, you're talking about the resources they face challenges. Women are often responsible for managing the natural resources, providing food, water for their families, making them particularly vulnerable, those who are impacted of climate change.
And just one point I'd like to add here, from the chore areas, yes, most of the male counterpart, they are migrating in the other areas for the temporary job.
Right.
And that time, the total family member, children, right, so everybody dependent on the women. So that's the women basically the overburden, and they are carrying this burden always.
Absolutely right. Thank you. Now I'm coming to Nayoka. Are you there? Hello, Nayoka.
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
Thank you.
I hope I don't disappear.
No, you are here very prominently. No problem. So I'm talking about the locally led adaptation taken by the country. So this approach involves, we know, building capacity of the local actors, women, how they identify the risk, how they develop the appropriate adaptation measures, everything like that. Mm. So may you share your experience in promoting women-centered locally adaptation? What initiatives can be taken to overcome that challenges or limitations of women's roles and participation to ensure the locally led adaptation?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I like the makeup of the panel, because it's so obvious we're coming from different perspectives, even though we all aspire to implement the principles of adaptation here. I would like to speak about our experience with what is known as the LOGIC program, local government initiative on climate change, where we started with a program that was supposed to influence the allocation of resources to adaptation at the local level, but it ended up being a very gender transformative program. And what we have learned when trying to influence, resource allocation centrally to locally is that we really have to address a lot of these vulnerabilities faced by women when it comes to climate change and their need to adapt. So, for example, we need to address the restraints set on them through, like social norms and very restrictive roles that are set on them. We need to also address the barriers of participation in decision-making processes. For example, even in just the design and the implementation and the decisions on allocation of resources, they have to be there, because otherwise, you don't get a sustainable approach. You also need to, and the previous speakers have alluded to that we have to recognize that women don't really have control. They are so dominant in, let's say, the agriculture sector in rural areas. That's like 76% of women are dependent on the agriculture sector, but they have no control over capital. They have no access to economic opportunities to scale up their livelihoods, and they don't have the social protection in the event of loss of jobs and all. And then we also know that women have very little access to public institutions. So these are the things, these are the constraints that we have to deal with when we work programmatically on empowering women for locally led adaptation.
Okay, thank you so much. You are giving focus on the resource allocation, gender transformative approaches, and definitely it is very important to ensure the women's participation in the locally led adaptation. Lubna, Yasmine, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So Nayoka is talking about the gender transformative issue and the resource allocation. And it is also true, government formulated Bangladesh Climate Change Gender Action Plan in 2013, so far I remember. So would you please update about that? Is there any update on this, or what are the strategic importance and priorities of the ministry to address this gender transformative issue for the locally led adaptation? At the same time, how the ministry is planning for this locally led plan?
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I'm very much delighted to be here to participate in this dialogue. I think you asked me too many questions. I mean, let me give you answer.
Two questions.
Consecutively. First of all, actually, our ministry, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, we are, our country is mandated to follow the Paris Agreement and the Kyoto Protocol, and according to these international conventions, we formulated National Adaptation Plan, which has been adopted and approved by our government, and we have submitted to United Nations, UNFCCC. And so as for our commitment, we need to we need to implement this National Adaptation Plan for within next 27 years. That is starting from 2023 to 2050. So it's a long-term plan. So in this plan, actually, we have focused on 113 interventions in 8 sectors, and all of the sectors actually they have a given importance for gender equality. Because before, while addressing the climate change issue, gender was always it was excluded from the climate change issue. So, but later on, everybody globally, it has been anticipated that if we only address these gender equality things, I mean, if we focus on gender equality, then much of our climate issues can be addressed. So that's why gender is a very important and vital part of our National Adaptation Plan. And actually, what Shaheen also already mentioned and other speakers have already mentioned, National Adaptation Plan actually is a very big plan, and government is committed to implement it. But there are some elements which is already included in this adaptation plan, which our community-based organizations, our NGOs and other grassroots organizations, they can help us to implement, because it's very hard for government to implement the whole National Adaptation Plan. So what Shaheen Appa and other respected speakers have mentioned, I mean, if they work in the grassroots level and addressing the climate migrants, focusing on the gender equality, and also in different other areas, for example, in agriculture, if training women for adopting climate resilience in their strategies in agriculture. I mean, these kind of things which can be addressed locally. So that's why we like to focus on and like to request and also attract the local NGOs and local bodies along with our local government bodies to work all together to address the gender issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, definitely. It is important to engage at all levels of stakeholders to address to ensure the gender equality. Connecting with this issues, the gender equality, I'm coming to Shaheen Appa to you. It is definitely gender equality is one of the important aspect of our total climate change impact to address through locally led adaptation. So it is also very much true that women are likely to be poverty than men, have less access to the basic human rights like mobility, freedom of choice, discontinuation of education, child marriage, systematic violence are there, structural violence are there, and it is escalated due to the climate change impact. So we want to hear from Shaheen Appa. What are the main reasons behind this? What do you think? And do you think the technology can also contribute for this gender equality and ensure women human rights? Shaheen Appa,
Thank you, Banasree, and thank you everyone for your interventions. Women in Bangladesh, although women have made a lot of progress in Bangladesh in every sphere, there's no doubt. But as I have always said, women are not a homogeneous group. There are different groups of women. Women with disabilities, women from low-income families, women living in climate vulnerable areas, or in the hill tracts areas, indigenous women, women with different challenges, women who are not so educated. So we cannot treat women's rights treating them as a homogeneous group. That is number one. So when we think of women's development and empowerment, we have to think whose empowerment and which group of women we are addressing. If we develop program for all women in a same way, then it will not work. It has to be very contextual. Whatever we design development programs for them, it must take into consideration the social, economic situation of where we are targeting women. So women face, as I said, that unique vulnerabilities because of social construct, because of socially constructed roles that are given to women in our society. Women face vulnerability because they are still treated as dependent on men. They don't have a strong voice, independent voice. Somebody has to always supposedly take care of them. So these perceptions of society also has an impact on women's lives in our country. For example, why are girls before 18? Because parents think that this is the social norm, that girls after 18, by 18 should be married. This is the social norm. They might fall into some kind of trouble, either physical or other. So it's better to, give them away as soon as possible. Some, কোনো বিপদ হতে পারে, মেয়ে প্রেম করে পালিয়ে যেতে পারে অন্য জায়গায়, তাহলে তাদের মান সম্মান থাকবে না। What I'm saying that all these socially constructed roles, ideas, perception impact on women. So to answer Banasree's question, that if we really want to change or empower women and change the position, the situation of women, we have to really work on the position of women in families and in society. Unless we work at that level, it's very, very difficult to change the situation of women. So there are many things which have to work at the same time to change the situation of women. The law has to work, the policies and laws that we have enacted have to work, the local government personnel representative have to be sensitive, the existing mechanisms that have been put in place by the government, those have to have accountability in discharging their duties. But most importantly, the attitude and perception towards women in families and society has to change from a negative to a positive one. Women, and I don't want to be so pessimistic and so negative. Our young women are coming up very strongly in every sphere and at every sections. So we see that girls from the village are going into sports. They're learning different skills. They are, of course, going out for jobs. But we have to make options available for them. That is very important. What is the alternative that girls and women have so that they can change their lives? I think I'll stop here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Actually, you mentioned both the future strength, and we have some backlashes also are already there, how we can overcome this, and you mentioned very correctly about the young participation. Salam bhai, you are waiting for the long time to share your future plan, but before coming to you, I would like to request Nayoka, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, okay. So considering this lots of backlashes and the reasons behind the discrimination and forward to the gender equality, how do you see the visibility of the women's participation in this process, locally led adaptation process? And at the same time, what do you think, what strategic priorities should be in place to ensure women's participation in this process? So we have lots of discriminatory issues, structural issues, and all of things already Shaheen mentioned. So how you do think this?
Yeah, I mean, it's very important that we actually put women in the right processes. I mean, put ourselves. I would count myself into that. But there are very key processes where women have to be placed in a much more prominent role. And a lot of us, we have spoken about giving opportunity for women to take local leadership positions, for example, so they are in the position to determine the course of a lot of these initiatives themselves. I did mention about putting women early on in processes, so they have to be there when initiatives are being designed and when resources are going to be allocated. So design and planning, these are processes that women have to be part of. And women play an important role in accountability mechanisms as well, both locally, community level, at the local government level, union, upazila level, and even nationally. And I also I'm a strong believer on women's economic empowerment initiatives, because you give a woman $1 and she will come up, she will multiply this manyfold, because such is the capacity and the right prioritization that women make. And I also am a believer in because we are talking about the context of climate change and the need to adapt. I'm also a great believer in prioritizing social protection mechanisms and measures. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much. You mentioned the social protection issue separately. It's come first. So again, Salam bhai, I'm going to the Lubna pa. So then come to you so that you can say after what should I say? Knowing everyone's listening, everyone's, then you put on your focus on the grassroots level. What actually we need to do. So Lubna pa. I think you are following our discussions like that. We know the Ministry of Women formulated the Bangladesh Climate Change Strategy and Action Plan, which acknowledges the importance of the gender sensitivity, gender sensitive adaptation, and at the same time, which is also focused on our National Women Development Policy, where we prioritize women's participation on climate change adaptation activities, and at the same time, the country's community-based adaptation approach, which is we call locally led, recognizes the women's role, and women are as key actors of these measures. So, what strategic interventions can be taken to effectively incorporate women's practical needs and implementing the measuring the success of climate actions based on the strategic program and plan?
Okay, thank you. Actually, we have, we have formulated many plans actually focusing on women's development and gender equality. And what you mentioned, Bangladesh Climate Change Strategy Action Plan is one of them. And now we have Climate Change Gender Action Plan, which is under actually upgradation because it was formulated in 2013. And we will be adding some additional we will include some, there will be more inclusions especially focusing on the gender equality. Actually, our purpose is to mainstreaming gender in all policy decisions, because if we can focus on gender equality, it will help us to take better decisions, and also gender equality in everywhere. Let me, give you some example. Actually, you know what happens. Actually, I personally believe that this will work because I worked as a first secretary labor in Jordan, and particularly I was directly dealing with Bangladeshi migrant female workers. So what I saw, actually, Bangladeshi female workers, they were very strong. And among all other, there are many nationalities working there, but all the employers, they used to tell me that Bangladeshi female workers are the best among all. So, from there, I got the hope that we will be if we do something and if we can properly address these gender equality issues, then our women can bring a revolution to our country. And also, I was thinking, because nowadays this innovation, this digital technology, this has brought new opportunities for us. I personally think that because, we have some problems in our grassroots level. In rural villages, like there is not social physical infrastructure, or many things, many problems are there. But if we can implement the digital technology everywhere, and we can bring women to the platform, and we can achieve whatever we need. For example, I was taking interview for Bangladesh Rubber Board just last week, and I asked someone who is specialist in information technology, ICT, he was giving the interview. So I asked him that how can you help the poor farmers with your technology? Do you have any idea how can you help them? So he said that, okay, I will make some list of the stakeholders, and so then I'll be able to create a platform so that they can meet each other. I said, only creating list. Now actually virtually you can create everything.
Exactly.
Whatever you need can be created virtually. And I think this is an opportunity. This digital Bangladesh is an opportunity, especially for women. I mean, we can do, if we are willing to do something, we can bring a revolution in Bangladesh through women. This is what I believe. And these all things are incorporated in our plans and policies, focusing women to bring under the platform of new technologies so that we can achieve whatever is needed within our stipulated period of time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. There are lots of hopes, definitely. Salam bhai, now it's your turn. You are waiting long time. So you're listening all of the hopes and behind the discriminations, gender equality problem, structural problem, everything. So what initiatives can be taken for our preparations or effective response of climate change impact?
Actually, what I was listening from the other speakers, that's very important. Nayoka also mentioned some issues that is very important that I think we should consider in the grassroots level. But we have to think in the structural things that in Bangladesh, what we are taking decision in the Dhaka level or in the national level, that is not coming to the grassroots level. That is one of the big limitations. That's why we have the government, NGOs, and other stakeholders. We have some opportunities, we have some facilities, but that is not coming to the grassroots level. That is the problems we are facing here. So I think we should consider the way that the women should benefit directly for the climate change vulnerable. So, and that's why I think first is important, identify who are the climate vulnerable people in Bangladesh. That is important because otherwise we cannot support that women or the people, those who get the benefit from these issues. So that's why I think it should be an list or the identification or any card, anything the government can do, that these people are most vulnerable of the climate change. This is one issue. Another issue is that, the women, mostly they are dependent on our domestic work. That's why they're more burdened. And when they're going to the other work, alternative work, they're going more burden. But sometimes it's needed for their empowerment, for their improvement. I think they can get the alternative, they can come to the alternative livelihood. Like, they can get the skill training, they can get the job in different places in the private sector. And what the private sector is doing, the private sector, they have a lot of opportunities. So private sector can come to the grassroots level and they can engage with this kind of vulnerable women, especially those who are in the position of the grassroots level, so they can involve them for their job and income generating activities. So another thing is that, that there is actually no research activities for the grassroots level. There are some research on climate change issues, but that research, only the researchers are, for their degree, they are doing the research. That is not coming up again to the grassroots level. So that is very important to take initiative. I would say the MJF can do this. They can give some, they can engage some researcher who can come to the grassroots level and they can conduct the research, and that research definitely will benefit the same community or the same people. But in the conventional research, we are not getting the result. That is our limitation. And, the women have a lot of potentials in Bangladesh. They are contributing to the families, but it is not recognized. That we can, or MJF can facilitate for marketing these issues. Like they can keep the seeds themselves. They are doing since long time, but it is not actually recognized. They can keep the agriculture seeds. That is one of the measures of the climate change issues, disaster issues, as well as their income issues, as well as the resources. So this is the important things. And other thing is that the decision-making process, what we are always talking, the women need to take decision themselves. But in the grassroots level, you can't think the women can take decision in their families also. That's why we need to provide some kinds of technical training or support where they can make them aware and become a leader, grassroots leader. So that is important. When, we are working on the disaster, during the disaster time, the most of the volunteers coming from the male or the boys, but we can't get the women become a volunteers. So I think that should be, that initiative should be taken by someone. They can provide the training or they can skills for becoming women volunteers. Then they can help to others. And other thing is that, there are some shelters, those shelters, but women don't have the specific shelters. And that's why in the many shelters, women are facing some security problems, safety problems in there, especially during the disasters. So I think this should be considered.
Okay, thank you so much. You already shared some recommendations also. Yes, research is one of the important things. We have limitations on that. And without research, we cannot move fast and forward. So this is the last round, actually, and we will hear from you. You already mentioned some recommendations for the future. And I'm coming to the Shaheen Appa. What suggestions would you like to share for building resilience for the women against the climate change impact? And it is the common for all of us. You are muted.
What suggestion I want to make to whom? To whom?
To share for building resilience for the women and also to address the climate change impact as a whole.
So I think we have almost come to the end. It's already 40. I'll just speak for 2 minutes. I really believe that women have a lot of resilience already. They are, in spite of all odds, I see women surviving and helping their families to survive. I remember, once I saw a photo that a woman was not even a boat, kind of some wooden platform. And in that, she had quickly brought her mud stove and some rice and some chira, and she was trying to feed the family while she was floating. So first women thinks of is to survive for herself, her family. However, she can't do it alone. So she needs the cooperation, as I said in the beginning, of a lot of people, civil society organizations, local government, the family, the society, to really believe in the resilience of women and give them decision-making power, authority, so that they can take this. And what Mr. Abdus Salam said is the infrastructural problems that women face on shelters, on toilet, on safety, on all these things have to address. But when we talk about how they can build their resilience, yes, they need support, but they already have resilience. They just need a bit of support from the society, from everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Women have the inner strength, actually. Lubna, coming to you, you will join another meeting. Very directly, I'd like to hear from you. How can we strengthen the GeoNGO collaboration on this aspect from grassroots to national level?
I mean, this has already been incorporated in our national policies. I mean, because if we particularly look into the National Adaptation Plan, because this will require $230 billion within 27 years period of time, and this is not actually government cannot alone allocate this money, so we will have to raise the money. For that we need actually support from domestic sources as well as international sources. So for domestic resources, private sector can play a vital role, and that's what actually we are thinking. We have taken some projects with Bangladesh Bank and Finance Ministry that how to allocate and how to raise the domestic resources. For example, because for climate resilience, we will be having some funds from IMF. So we will not directly use that fund. That's we are working on that. We will be using that money as resource to raise more sources from domestic sources. So that's how we will be addressing and then we will be starting implementing the adaptation plan. And also I would like to draw attention to Mr. Abdus Salam's issues that he raised about the shelter. Actually, these are all being incorporated in our national adaptation plan, because gender needs is, during disaster, we need special attention for the shelter for not only for women, but also for disabled person and also for livestock. So these are already in the plan. The thing is that we need time and we need resources to implement the plan, and that will be done gradually. So this is how we are working. And of course, we seek cooperation from all sides, because the climate change, although we are not responsible for climate change, but we are a victim, and this is our responsibility for all of us to address this, because these are our country and these are our people. We need to protect our people, and those who we are in the decision-making processes, including government and also private sectors and NGOs and other organizations. It should be a holistic approach to address this issue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. You focus on the integrated approach and collective. Without integration and collective approach, we cannot survive or we cannot build our resilience. So, Nayoka, it's your turn. Like it is the same for.
Banasree, can I interrupt 1 second?
Yes.
I need to go to another meeting.
I think she is the last person.
Okay.
So we can
I'll wait.
very soon. So, Nayoka, what suggestion do you like to share with us about the building resilience from your perspective?
Yes, we have to remind ourselves Bangladesh is a leader in climate adaptation. And we have a number of frameworks that we can already work with. So I do support the suggestion to work with the NAP as our framework. We have so many initiatives that can come together using the NAP as our reporting framework and our learning framework. I remember that UNEP and UN Women and IUCN, they did a assessment of 4 major sector policies and where the gender gaps are. So this is the policies on water, forestry, agriculture, and fisheries. And there are so many suggestions there that we can take up. So to push for the fact that national policies can be used to actually strengthen everything that we are doing on the ground. I also want to point to the fact that we are developing a number of tools. We actually have a number of tools available that speak to vulnerabilities, and when you put the climate located in the most climate impacted areas. And so we can work with these tools already. The climate vulnerability map is with Ministry of Planning, and another map is the Ministry of Local Government. So somehow there has to be like a speaking among these major agencies about how we can use what exists. And a final point from me is that we need scale. And this is where Sweden as a partner is so focused on, because scale also means engaging private sector and mobilizing private capital. So Sweden has a number of instruments that we would like to utilize to support all these women entrepreneurs, the women-led cooperatives that have been formed through a number of the partnerships that we have been supporting. So the next step is to get them more entrenched into the financial system. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for sharing your valuable time with us in this morning. And definitely, we will catch up you again and discuss more and more so that we can learn from each other, we can share experience with each other, and we also heard from the grassroots women next time. Thank you so much. Up to that, thank you all and bye-bye.